And I gotta say, that was the best turkey processing that we've ever done.
The breast, the thigh, the leg, all the good meat's getting brined.
Yo folks, it's time. Turkey time. It's time to get 5 turkeys into the freezer. And the timing couldn't be better. Thanksgiving is around the corner. And we'd like to eat one of these birds for Thanksgiving. Now before I start the video, you need to know that there's 2 versions of this video. There's the clean version, which I don't show any of the processing. I'm just gonna show the setup and I'm gonna show the aftermath after we've processed them. I'm also gonna film a graphic version for those that are interested that shows step-by-step the nitty-gritty of processing a turkey. I'll focus on one turkey and I'll do it from collecting the turkey, actually dispatching the turkey, taking the feathers off, going through the whole process and showing you step-by-step how that's done. I'm gonna make that video private. I'm not going to put it up on my public YouTube page. But otherwise, the video you're about to watch is clean. You won't see any gore. You won't see anything that you wouldn't see at a supermarket. So with that, let's continue. They're ready for it. These young turkeys, as you know, there's Lenny, who's our pet, our mascot. He's not going anywhere. And his wives, Laverne and Shirley, they're not going anywhere. But their kids, these 5, they're ready to go. And a good rule of thumb for processing turkeys that I use is when the young toms, start fanning out their feathers, which they may do that for me here, they may not. They may know what's up, so they're intentionally not fanning their feathers, but they've been fanning their feathers. That's my typical rule of thumb to say they're probably big enough and they're probably mature enough to get processed. They're not as big as Lenny is. These young ones aren't as big as Lenny is. But that's fine. If they get too big, then they're super hard to process. The very first year I processed turkeys, we had a monster and he snapped the rope and he was really tough to deal with. So once they get big enough, we let them be. But these young turkeys, they're big enough to eat, they're big enough to process, but not so cumbersome that they're hard to manage when you process them. So before you process an animal on your farm, on your homestead, you need to do a dry run the day before. You just have to do it, whether it's chickens or pigs or turkeys or sheep, whatever animal you're processing, you need to have your whole setup ready the day before and you need to walk through step by step the process that you're going to follow the next morning. That's what I'm about to do now with these turkeys, and I'll take you along to each station that we have in turkey processing. Now the first step before anything else is staging your turkeys. Putting them in a contained spot where you don't have to chase them down, run them up, spend half an hour to an hour chasing down each individual turkey. You don't want to do that. You want to get them in a contained area where you can just go in, grab them, and then do the deed. Now for our turkeys, they're very corn motivated. They love scratch grains, they love corn. So what my plan is tomorrow is to bring them into this A-frame. Now, some people will do this the night before, and that's definitely a valid option. However, we don't have enough shelters. Our chickens sleep in this shelter the night before. So what I'm gonna do first is just test how willing they are to come get the corn pretty quickly and then lead them into the A-frame. So let's start by dropping some corn. I think you can see how easy this process is going to be. When we had pigs, if they escaped and we needed to track them down, get them back to the fence, we had trained them against the sound of food in a bucket so that they would know they were getting treats. So whenever Frank and Beans, the pigs, got out of the fence, we'd shake the bucket with food and they'd come running after us. It's the same thing with these animals. You train them to come to food and they'll go wherever you want. So I don't think we're going to have any problem getting the turkeys in the A-frame tomorrow morning. Next step, I'll shut the A-frame door, they'll be in there, and I'll collect them one by one. I will grab them by the feet and have them hang upside down, which actually relaxes them, and I'll take them to the kill cone over here. These are extra large kill cones. I forget where I got them. May have been Rural King or Tractor Supply, but I ordered them as big as I can get them. Now, These actually won't handle extra large turkeys, like I was talking about a minute ago. If you let a turkey get too big and it's 50 pounds, it's just a monster, you won't be able to kill it in this kill cone. You'll have to rig something up and hang them and cut them that way. But these kill cones are actually very humane. Once turkeys are placed in there, I'll pull out their neck. They're very calm because they're upside down. And then with a knife, I'll show you the knives that I use here in a minute, quickly kill them. The knife has to be as sharp as possible. There's an old saying among people that do this, which is a sharp knife is a humane knife. So you want a very sharp knife. We cut them and we let them bleed out. Now before we take them to the scalding tank, we're actually going to take off their tails and their wing feathers, because those feathers take up a lot of bulk. You've seen tom turkeys around with their giant tail feathers fanning out. And their wing feathers are really big too. We're not gonna eat the tail, we're not gonna eat the wings, so we're gonna just take those parts off. That'll help us when we start plucking them here in a few minutes. It's time to take them to the scalding tank, which is in there. Now real quick, the reason I have my whole setup here in the breezeway of my barn is because it's been raining a lot, and it may be raining tomorrow morning. You can very easily set this stuff up al fresco, under the open sky, which if it gets nice tomorrow, we probably will. But just in case the weather gets bad, we have our setup in here. Now let's talk about our scalding tank. Because we're doing turkeys, we need something that's a little bit bigger to handle the dip and scald. I've taken this barrel, this food grade barrel, and I filled it with water, which, believe it or not, I actually filled this from our rain tank. The bottom of this is slightly lower than our rain tank, so I was able to just take the hose. And we need to be draining the rain tank anyways for the upcoming winter season, the rain tank. And I just emptied half the rain tank into this barrel. So we need to heat this up, and I'm actually starting to heat it up now, a day before, and I'm using a combination of things. Let me take the lid off. I'm using a water heater element. A lot of people will use these in things like jacuzzis. It's water safe. Yes, it's plugged in, but it is water safe. And a lot of people will use this to heat up water tanks in the winter, or they'll use to heat up a stock tank filled with water that they use as a jacuzzi or something. Take it out before they get in, but it is a way of heating up the water. So I've got that running. I'm gonna have that running overnight. And in the meantime, I also have this propane tank hooked up underneath the barrel. So as you can see, I set the barrel up on these cinder blocks to accommodate my little propane stove underneath it. Now I'm running the propane stove now just to test it out and to give this a little boost, but I'll be turning that off overnight. I'll just be running the little thermal warmer in there overnight. And in the meantime, I've got this lid with just a piece of plywood that I can stick on top just to keep the heat trapped in. I'll keep that in overnight. What temperature do you want your scald tank to be, your scalding water to be? I forget the exact temperature. I'll know it tomorrow, and I'll look it up tomorrow before I actually dip them in here, and I'll put it on the screen here. This number is the actual temperature you want your water to be before you scald the turkeys. Now what does that mean? Basically what we'll do, we'll take the dead turkey carcass, and we'll dip it in the water, move it around a bit until its feathers are soaked enough to where they can easily get pulled out. That's the whole point of the stock tank. If you just kill a turkey and try to pluck its feathers, it's gonna be tough. It's not gonna be easy. The feathers are in their skin pretty good. It makes it a lot easier to remove their feathers if they've been scalded. You don't wanna put them in there for too long because you don't wanna start to cook the meat, but you wanna keep them in there long enough to where you can easily slide out the feathers. And the way that we do it is we'll test it. After they've been in there for a second, we'll pull them out by the feet and we'll test pulling out a few feathers. If they slide out from the skin really easily, that means they're ready to go on to the next step. Now that you've scalded the turkeys and you've tested their feathers, they slide right out of their skin, it's time to pluck them. And ideally you have a plucker that's big enough to handle them. Now, if you're not familiar with a plucker, it's just a series of rubber fingers in a barrel like this, and you press a button and the barrel spins around and flops the bird around the barrel, and the rubber fingers catch on the feathers. So within a minute or so, all of the feathers are pulled off of the bird. It's so much easier than plucking them by hand. We'll have a hose here that we spray in the plucker as we're doing it, and what the hose does is it takes all those feathers that come off the bird and it pushes them out of this little, let's see if I can get a better picture here, of this little hole right here, and they get dumped into this bucket. This could be any sort of bucket. It can even be a 5-gallon bucket. You just have to replace it fairly often and dump the feathers. We'll dump all of our feathers. Probably after every bird, we'll dump them in our compost. But this collects the feathers so they're not feathers everywhere, and you can just dump them. Now you'll notice that the plucker isn't huge. And this plucker itself is actually something that we use for chickens whenever we process chickens. It handles the carcass of a chicken very easily with no problems, and it will pluck them clean within 20 to 30 seconds. Will these fit the turkeys though? It may fit the female turkeys, the tom turkeys, it might not. They might be too big for it. So that's where we have plan B with our plucking. And that's this situation right here, this setup. I've hung this chain, this little winch chain right here with a noose at the end. And if the turkeys don't fit in the plucker, I need to pluck them by hand. So what I'll do is I'll take their legs, I'll hang their legs in here, I'll tighten the noose, I'll put the trash can underneath it, and I'll just start plucking them by hand. It takes a little bit longer. It probably takes, instead of 30 seconds, it takes 20 minutes maybe to pluck them out. But that's what you got to do if you don't want feathers on your turkey, which most people I know aren't big culinary fans of eating feathers. So you just pluck them clean. It's more hands-on. It takes a longer time. But it's still pretty easy because you scalded them and their feathers still slide out relatively easy. I include this tarp down here too to catch any feathers that get thrown away. They don't go directly into the bucket. And so once I'm done for the day, I can just taco up the tarp, haul it to the compost, and dump the feathers that way. All right, now that we have a naked bird, it's got no feathers, we're probably gonna start processing the thing. What we'll typically do at this point, now remember the wings have already been removed, but we still got a head that we're dealing with and some legs. We'll take those legs off, and if we haven't already removed the head, we'll remove the head. And we'll actually process the bird. Now, I'm not gonna get into the step-by-step of processing. That's something I'll show in the private video, but it's pretty easy. Harvesting a chicken or a bird is not an involved process. Long story short, you open up a cavity into their innards and you pull all their innards out. There's a lot of nuances, there's a lot of things you gotta watch out for. Organs you don't wanna nick, but long story short, it's a pretty simple process. Once you get to that point, you have a bird carcass that looks like something you'd buy at the supermarket, whether it's a chicken or a turkey. And it's ready to go to the next step. Real quick, I'll talk about my knife set. I've got a game set right here. I got this game processor set off of Amazon. And these knives are actually really great. I'm gonna be sharpening them tonight. Although I think I sharpened them last time, but it doesn't hurt to give it an extra sharpen. But these knives are made for processing animals out in the field that I've used. If I can find the link to them, I'll include it in the description. But so this is one set of knives, and I've also got this knife right here. It's called Outdoor Edge, and it's got a replaceable blade that's basically a razor blade. This is for more precision cuts and for actually dispatching the bird, killing the bird. It's super sharp, which makes that process very, very quick. This isn't good for cutting up large primals or big pieces of the animal, but it is good for, like I said, precision work and actually killing it. I've got 2 tables set out here. I've got this outdoor sink, which it's good because there's cavities here where I can just set the bird in and start working at it. But I've also got an extra table too. The important thing is I've got a few working spaces, which is good because we'll have people helping. So that helps us walk through the process when we're doing that easier because we've all got more workspaces. And again, I said it before, if the weather's nice, we're just gonna move these things out into the open air. Now that we've got a cleaned out turkey carcass, right? It could go straight into the oven if you wanted it to. We actually store them in these coolers. We'll have ice in these coolers. I have bleached these out and cleaned them out so they'll be ready for ice and for the actual turkeys themselves tomorrow. And what we're probably gonna do is let them sit while we're doing all the other ones. And once we're done with all of them, we may quarter up the turkeys to make them easier to pack up, or we may just keep them whole. We haven't decided yet. We're probably gonna cut them up. And then we'll dump all the ice from these things and we'll put salt water in them, aka brine, and we'll take all those turkey parts and brine them overnight. Brining is a way that we like to kind of lock in the flavor of the turkey. It brings out the flavor of the turkey really well. We can talk about that a little bit more once we actually do it. That's something I'll show on this public video, is the brining process. And we'll probably let them brine overnight. Once they've brined, we're gonna shrink wrap them. What we'll do is we'll heat up this pot. We'll probably dump that barrel, take the propane stove, heat up the water in there, and then put the turkey parts in the shrink wrap bags, dip them in, get all the air out, and then they're shrink wrapped and ready for the freezer. That's the whole process. Now, I've walked through this to show you how important it is to do a walkthrough the day before, because it's very easy to forget one of these steps. So say you're going to process chickens or turkeys tomorrow. You want to make sure every single station is accounted for the day before, so you're not surprised by some really important critical element of the processing steps that you forgot or that you left out the day of. It's good to walk through this step by step the day before so that you know that you're ready for it tomorrow. So with all that being said, I know that we're ready. The one thing I haven't brought out yet is the hose to bring out here to spray inside the barrel, which the hose is right over there. So I know I can do that tomorrow. But otherwise, everything's ready to go. These turkeys are ready to be processed, and I'm excited because I love turkey. Turkey meat is one of my favorite foods. So I'm gonna fast forward to probably tomorrow morning as we prep and get ready. And then after that, I'm gonna skip over to after the processing is done in this public video. And then we'll take it from there. Again, with the private video, you'll get to see the step-by-step, just kind of unedited, raw graphic stuff. So let's skip ahead to tomorrow. Well, good morning, yo folks. Everything's been uneventful this morning. Been able to get the turkeys in the A-frame using the corn method. The barrel's heated up nice and good. In fact, when I came out this morning, so the correct temperature to scald turkey feathers is roughly around 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And when I came out this morning, I had this wooden lid on the barrel and just the submersible heating element inside. And without even turning on the propane tank, it was already 150 degrees without doing any propane heating, which is kind of cool. So I think when I do this next time, I may not even use the propane heater at all, because that little submersible heating element works really well. Now, I did pull the heating element. You can see here, I did pull the heating element out because once we dip the turkeys in, I do not want this electrically charged thing getting in our way. So I am going to keep this under just to heat it up as necessary. But right now it needs to cool down. Where's it at? I mean, it's over 150 degrees at the moment. Anyways, we're ready. There was a brief gully washer this morning, a pretty intense rainstorm that rolled through here roughly an hour ago. It's currently 8:30. I was up out here at 6:30 checking things, and the storm came at around 7:30, and it lasted for like 45 minutes. So it ended not too long ago. You can see the rain kind of dripping off the trees here and everything. After the rainstorm passed, I put our evisceration tables out here, the coolers out here. But if we need to move them back in the breezeway, we'll do that. I'd prefer not to, just because the breezeway is dusty and everything, but if we need to and it starts raining again, Dion has some words. If we need to put them back in here, we'll do that. But anyways, this is the point of the video where the clean video, I'm just going to skip ahead till after we've dispatched all the birds and they're in supermarket shape. So in this video, you won't see anything that you wouldn't see at the supermarket. But for the graphic version of the video, I'm going to show you step by step the processing of our very first turkey, just so you get a sense of everything that's involved with the evisceration process. So, okay, the turkeys are completely processed, and I gotta say that was the best turkey processing that we've ever done. We get better at it every year. If you want to see the step by step, the dirty version, that's in the private link. But Holly came in, and Holly's adding the final icing on the cake with these turkeys, which is brining them.
So what I did was I made a brine solution. I had two big canisters of salt, just the regular normal salt that you get at the store, not iodized, but just regular salt. And I took a kettle full of hot water, and I dissolved those 2 canisters of salt. It's a ton of salt, probably 4 or 5 cups, I'd imagine. Dissolved the salt in that hot water, and I picked a ton of herbs from our garden. I picked sage, rosemary, and thyme, and I put that in the salt solution. And then I added more water to the salt solution to cool it down, because you don't want to put the birds in a hot brine. So I cooled the brine down. So between these 2 ice chests, you've got 1 canister of salt in that chest and another canister of salt in that chest. So it's a very salty solution.
It's very salty.
So you've got the herbs in there for flavor and aromatics.
It smells really good, by the way. It smells incredible.
Yeah.
What herbs did you say you put in?
Sage, rosemary, and thyme.
From our garden.
Yes, but no parsley.
Okay.
So then I topped them all up with ice. And then I brought the brine up to where it's mostly covering all the birds. Now that's a little bit of a back sticking out. The breast meat is down there.
Got
the breast, the thigh, the leg, all the good meat's getting brined. So we'll leave these in here probably at least for a day to just rest and brine. And from there we bag them up and we put them in the freezer once they're done brining.
They'll be ready for... do you think we should leave one of them out for Thanksgiving? That's a couple days away.
Absolutely. I'm not putting it in the freezer.
So there's one we're going to choose for next week for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We'll just keep it in the fridge.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Keep it in the fridge.
I'm so pumped. We were able to actually pluck all of these birds, all of them, which we weren't able to pluck them in years past. So with the plucker. If you're watching the clean version, I didn't show that in this one. Maybe I'll show some images from that, but we were able to pluck each and every one, so we didn't need to go through and pluck them by hand. And it made such a huge difference in the quality of how they turned out. There are no little pin feathers, or if there are pin feathers, there might be 1 or 2. But
in years past, some of the turkeys were too big to fit in the plucker.
Correct.
Right? These were all...
We got them at just the right time.
Harvest your turkeys before they get too big. Because when they're big, they're hard to get.
So we're going to let these rest overnight, and then we're going to bag them up, shrink wrap them tomorrow, which we won't show in this video. But I'm very, very happy, and I'm excited for Thanksgiving. Would you agree this has been the best turkey harvest we've done?
Absolutely.
There it is. Good night, turkeys. Thank you for your service. Well, the mood isn't as somber in the barnyard as I expected it to be. Lenny doesn't seem all that tore up about the loss of his offspring. I think they were giving him a hard time, so probably happier for it. Anyways, that was the best processing session we've had by far, which is good. You hope that every year you do this, you get better and better and more experienced at it. I think doing a walkthrough the day before was huge. That gets you nice and prepared. You're not scrambling to pick up things that you may have neglected to remember the night before. Just having the familiarity of going through the process. If you are going to slaughter a turkey or process your own turkeys, go watch that video, the uncensored version of the video, because that'll walk you through step by step exactly what you're going to see. And what we go through to get our turkeys ready, and our turkeys are delicious. I'm going to check on them one more time. We're going to let them brine overnight. Oh man, you can smell the herbs. It's just incredible. I am so excited about having those turkeys in the next few months, and then 1 turkey for Thanksgiving next week. So anyways, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We're glad you could tag along as we processed 5 turkeys very easily. We started this. We actually started the processing, I'd say around 8, and it's a little after noon right now. So the fact that we're able to knock out those that quickly, that cleanly, and have them ready to go, ready to brine, is really cool, really exciting. So thanks for hanging out with us, and until we see you again next time, happy Thanksgiving. And remember, as always, slowly, slowly.